The year was 325 BCE. Alexander the Great, fresh from his conquests in India, faced one of the greatest challenges of his legendary career. It wasn't an enemy army or a political rebellion, it was nature itself. His decision to march his army through the unforgiving Gedrosian Desert would push his leadership and his men to their absolute limits. The searing heat, lack of water, and scarce food supplies were just the beginning of their ordeal. Many soldiers succumbed to dehydration and heat stroke, while others were lost to the relentless sandstorms. Despite these overwhelming odds, Alexander's determination never wavered. The journey was further complicated by the treacherous terrain, which included vast stretches of barren land and deadly quicksand. Additionally, the army had to fend off attacks from hostile tribes and wild animals, adding to their peril. Today, we delve into one of the most harrowing chapters in Alexander's life, the grueling return journey. After years of relentless campaigning, Alexander and his army were heading west, back to Babylon. Instead of choosing a safer route through Persia, Alexander made a fateful decision to march through the Gedrosian Desert, a region known for its extreme heat, arid terrain, and scarce resources. Why take such a risk? Some historians believe Alexander wanted to outdo the legendary Persian king Cyrus the Great, who had failed to cross this desert centuries earlier. Others suggest it was a test of endurance and loyalty for his men. The challenges were immense. The army faced severe dehydration, with many soldiers succumbing to thirst. Sandstorms were frequent, blinding the men and making navigation nearly impossible. Food was scarce, forcing the army to ration their supplies and hunt for whatever they could find. Despite these hardships, the journey forged a strong sense of camaraderie and resilience among Alexander's men. They had to rely on ancient wells and oases, which were often dry or contaminated. Heat stroke and exhaustion were rampant, with many soldiers requiring immediate medical attention. The men hunted desert wildlife, such as lizards and small mammals, to supplement their meager rations. Navigation was a constant challenge, with soldiers using the stars and rudimentary tools to find their way. They built makeshift shelters to protect themselves from the relentless sun and sandstorms. Through these trials, the men shared stories and bonded, creating a unity that would be remembered for generations. But this was no ordinary desert. The Gedrosians' heat was merciless, and its barren stretches offered little food or water. Alexander's army, which had triumphed against the mightiest forces of the ancient world, now faced an invisible enemy that could not be conquered by swords or strategies. Dehydration and heat exhaustion claimed many lives, while fierce sandstorms added to their misery. Supplies dwindled rapidly, forcing the army to ration their food and water. The journey back to Babylon became a test of endurance and survival. Navigating through the desert was a monumental challenge, as ancient maps were often inaccurate. Wild animals and dangerous desert creatures posed unexpected threats. The soldiers had to build makeshift shelters using limited resources to survive the harsh nights. Primitive healthcare and ancient medical treatments were often inadequate for the wounds and illnesses that plagued the troops. The journey was an unrelenting nightmare. Day after day, the men endured scorching temperatures by day and freezing cold by night. Supplies dwindled quickly. What little water they found in oases was often contaminated. Dehydration became a constant threat. To make matters worse, the desert winds whipped up suffocating sandstorms, blinding the soldiers and making progress agonizingly slow. These storms could last for days. Venomous snakes and scorpions added to their woes, causing injuries and further slowing their march. Some bites were fatal. The men were burdened with heavy loads, their feet blistered and bleeding, many collapsing from sheer exhaustion. The relentless march took a toll on their morale. Food was scarce and the soldiers had to ration their meager supplies. Malnutrition weakened them further. Hostile tribes in the region posed additional threats, leading to skirmishes that further drained their energy and resources. Despite the dire circumstances, Alexander didn't isolate himself from his troops. He walked alongside his men, enduring the same thirst, hunger, and exhaustion. In one iconic moment, when a soldier brought him a helmet filled with a small amount of water, Alexander poured it out onto the sand, declaring, "If my men cannot drink, neither will I." It was an act of solidarity that inspired his troops to push forward. The journey back to Babylon was fraught with challenges. The harsh desert terrain was unforgiving, with scorching temperatures and scarce water sources. Sandstorms frequently battered the troops, reducing visibility and making progress slow and arduous. Many soldiers suffered from injuries and illnesses, with limited medical supplies to treat them. Food was also in short supply, forcing the men to ration their meager provisions. Alexander shared in these hardships, further solidifying his bond with his troops. The intense heat forced the soldiers to seek shade wherever they could, often creating makeshift shelters to protect themselves from the sun. In desperate attempts to find water, soldiers would dig into the ground, sometimes finding small, life-saving sources. Despite these overwhelming challenges, Alexander's unwavering leadership and the solidarity he showed kept his men determined to reach their destination. But even Alexander's leadership could not shield his army from the devastating toll of the desert. Thousands of men, along with pack animals, perished along the way. Hunger and dehydration claimed lives daily. According to some accounts, the army resorted to eating their horses to survive. The Gedrosian March was a stark contrast to Alexander's triumphant campaigns. It wasn't about glory, it was about survival. The army also faced relentless sandstorms that blinded and disoriented them. Blistering heat caused severe injuries, making the march even more grueling. Despite these hardships, Alexander's determination kept the morale of his troops from completely collapsing. After nearly 2 months of unimaginable suffering, Alexander and the remnants of his army finally emerged from the desert. They had survived. Barely. Some estimates suggest that he lost 3/4 of his army during the march. The harsh conditions included extreme heat, scarce water supplies, and relentless sandstorms. It was a sobering moment for the young king, whose previous campaigns had been marked by extraordinary victories. The journey was further complicated by mirages that misled the troops and the constant threat of scorpion stings. They had to ration their food supplies carefully, and many resorted to makeshift shelters to protect themselves from the elements. This journey was not just a test of endurance, it was a humbling experience for Alexander. For the first time he faced the limits of his ambition and the fragility of human life. Yet, even in the face of such devastating loss, Alexander's resolve remained unbroken. He continued his journey to Babylon, where new challenges awaited. Along the way they faced venomous scorpions and dwindling food supplies. The harsh terrain forced them to build makeshift shelters and navigate treacherous paths. Disease and extreme weather further tested their resilience. But amidst the hardships they found moments of relief and small victories that kept their spirits alive. The march through the Gedrosian Desert is a reminder that even the greatest of conquerors are not invincible. It stands as a testament to the resilience of Alexander and his men, but also to the heavy cost of ambition. The harsh desert conditions led to severe dehydration and heat stroke. Was this march a reckless gamble, with many soldiers perishing due to lack of water and food, or an essential part of Alexander's legacy, showcasing his determination to return to Babylon despite the odds? Let me know in the comments below. Did you know that Alexander's men had to dig deep into the sand to find water, often coming up empty-handed? They also had to survive on minimal rations, sometimes resorting to eating desert plants to stave off hunger. Additionally, they faced sudden desert storms that could bury entire camps in sand, adding to their misery. If you enjoyed this look into Alexander's grueling return journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more historical insights. Alexander faced numerous challenges, including harsh deserts, extreme heat, and dwindling supplies. His troops battled relentless sandstorms, and many suffered from dehydration and exhaustion. Despite these hardships, they pressed on, finding scarce water sources and pushing through to Babylon. And as always, thank you for watching.